Hello everyone, I'm going to talk about the conceptual art, and in this topic we are going to see different concepts or different subjects that that consist in this same art, and we are going to talk about these ones in the next slides. At first we have the linguistic and tautological concept, and we have the two definitions of each one. And at first, we have the linguistic concept, led by artists such as Joseph. It is based on the idea that art works as a language. An iconic example is his work One in Three Chairs in 1965, where he comforts a physical chair, a photograph of the chair, and the dictionary definition of chair. And then the art as tautology. Joseph argued that art should be analytical. As in mathematics or logic, a work of art is a tautology. This means a true proposition by definition. Art must be a statement about its own nature. That is, art is a definition of art. Another example is the Five Words in the Union in 1965 by Joseph, or by the same author, and a new live installation that spells exactly what it is, Five Words in the Union. The work doesn't represent anything external, it strictly defines itself in a tautological way. Another concept is the media art, that it is a broad category that encompasses those artistic practices that use communication technologies and the digital age. This includes everything from animation, like the internet, radio, and television, to interactive technologies, challenging traditional static forms and democratizing artistic creation and dis- dissemination. And here for this topic we have the Legible City by Jeffrey Shaw. It's an interactive installation where the visitors get on a extraordinary bicycle in front of a gigant projecting screen. And when pedaling, the viewer travels through virtual streets of real cities, but instead of buildings, the architecture it's made entirely of 3D words and text. And another example is the Text Rain in 1999 by Camille and Romy Achidov. This example is in the last slide, and it's an interactive installation where the bodies of visitors are projected live on a screen. Animated letters fall on their side letters that users can catch or hold with the movements of their arms to form words. Video art. Born in the 1960s, thanks to the popularization of portable cameras, it uses moving image, sounds, and video format as a means of artistic expression. Pioneers such as Nam June Paik manipulate a video signal and television to question the impact of the mass media. The first example here is the TV Buddha in 1974 by Nam June Paik. And here, a stone statue of Buddha sits in front of a television monitor that shows its own live image, captured by the video camera located behind the device, and it generates a meditative technological and iconic loop about the conception of screens. And in the another one, it's called The Crossing in 1996 by Bill Viola, and it's a two screen installation that shows a man walking slowly towards the viewer. And on one screen, water begins to fall on him until it becomes a torrent that vanishes him. And on the other, a small fire sprouts at his feet that completely envelops him until he disappears. The mail are. The mail are redefine the distribution channels by using the postal system as the main vehicle of the work. The artist exchanged postcards, stamps, envelopes, and small packages, creating a decentralized international communication network that evades consciously the market and traditional art galleries. A great examples here are the network of Ray Jensen and the New York Correspondence School in the 1960s. This is considered the father of mail art. Jensen sent letters, collages, and drawings by postal mail to friends and strangers with instructions such as please add something to this and send it to. And he broke the hierarchy of museums using the traditional mailbox. And in the right part, it's the example of the International Image Exchange Dictionary in the 1972 of the Western Film Collective in Canada, and a printed mailing dictionary that allow hundreds of global artists to exchange freestanding image, handmade podcasts, and set producer stamps to evade political censorship. Another topic is the copy art, also known as hieroglyphic art. It takes advantage of the use of photocopiers and printers as a creative tool. It allows mass reproduction and manipulation of image and text, and the artists modify the originals during the copying process, alterning colors, scales, and texture to generate a new visual work. And for copier are another two examples. The first one is the heterography series of Patty Hill. In the 1970s, Hill placed three-dimensional everyday objects directly on the glass of EBM photocopiers, like from skirts, gloves, and combs to a wedding dress. And the strong contrast and the deep lights of the machine transform common objects into a ghostly image of great poetic change. And another example is the Bruno Munari's mountain works. And in this project, Herography, in 1970, Munarati intentionally moved the sheets of paper, fabrics, or image on the display glass while the machine scanned, capturing the light swept and generating unique visual distortions impossible to repeat exactly. Eat art. Started by the artist Daniel Spare in the 1960s, with the opening of his restaurant and the publication of his book of the same name. He uses food and the experiences of eating as material and artistic sport. It questions the ephemeral nature of food, the social dynamics around the table, and the role of the senses beyond sight. And as an examples for it are the table strap by Daniel Parade, and at the end of real dinner shared with his guests, Spray fixed with glue and resin everything that was left on the table as it was at the exact moment. And it can be dirty dishes, cigarette butts, cutlery, food bones, and half full glasses. Then he hung the table from the wall as if it were a three-dimensional painting. And another one is the obelisk of sweetbread in 1979 by Marta mm, Minuhin, and a 30-meter structure built in Buenos Aires that replicated the famous monument, but amply covered with 30,000 packages of sweetbread. And at the end of the exhibition, the obelisk was no knocked down in a controlled way so that the audience could eat the work of art. In my opinion, all these artistic movements are fascinating because they completely change the traditional idea of what art could be. Before these movements, many people believed that art only exists in paintings, sculptures, or beautiful objects displayed in museums. However, conceptual art and media-based artists demonstrated that ideas, experiences, communication, and everyday objects could be also become art. I find that linguistic and tautological concept especially interesting because artists like Joseph transform language itself into the center of the artwork, and works such as One and Three Chairs force viewers to think deeply about reality, representation, and meaning. Instead of simply admiring something visually, the audience must intellectually participate and ask questions. And I believe this makes art more reflective and philosophical. And for media art and video art also seems very important because they connect art with technology and modern life. Artists like Name Jempeg understood very early how television and screens were beginning to dominate society. And today, when people spend so much time on phones, computers, and social media, his works feel even more relevant. And I think these artworks encourage us to think critically about how technology influences our perception, our attention, and even our emotions. And for interactive works such as Text Rain or The Legible City are particularly powerful because the audience becomes part of the artwork. And in traditional art, viewers usually observe passively, but here the actively create the experience through movement and participation. And personally, I think this makes art more dynamic, accessible, and memorable. And for the part of mail and copy art, also impressed me because they challenge the exclusivity of the world, and artists like Ray Johnson and Bruno Munari used ordinary systems like the postal service or photocopiers to create and distribute art, and this democratized artists creation and provide that creativity doesn't depend on expensive materials or alien instructions. I think this idea remains extremely important today, especially in the digital age where people can share artistic content and can share artistic content instantly online. And for the ER, it perhaps one of the most unusual forms, but also one of the most human. Using food as art connects directly with memory, culture, community, and the senses. And the work of Daniel Sporrey demonstrates that even temporary experiences can have artistic value. And I personally like how it art breaks the barrier between everyday life and artistic expression. And overall, I believe these movements expanding the definition of art in revolutionary ways. They taught people that art is not only about beauty or technique, but also about ideas, participation, communication, criticism, and experience. Even though some works may seem strange or difficult to understand at first, they encourage viewers to think differently and question reality, which I believe is one of the most valuable purposes of art.